Conor Gallagher is in contact with Chelsea to find a solution, and that the focus for everyone is to find it as quickly as possible.
Did you know that the Premier League transfer window is in full swing? From Chelsea's drama to West Ham's shopping spree. In this video, we'll be looking deep into the latest transfer news and updates that have the football world buzzing. Conor Gallagher is a young, talented midfielder who's been with Chelsea for a long time. He came up through their youth academy and has been trying to break into the first team. Last season, he actually played a lot of games for Chelsea and even wore the captain's armband a few times. You'd think that'd mean he's a big part of their plans, right? Well, that's where things get tricky. Chelsea has offered Gallagher a new contract, but it's only for 2 years with an option for a third. Now, for a young player who's been at the club for so long and played so much last season, that don't seem like a very long deal. Gallagher feels like he deserves more security and recognition for what he's done for the team. But here's the thing, Chelsea's new manager has a different style of play, and it looks like they don't see Gallagher as a guaranteed starter anymore. They think he's more of a squad player, someone who's good to have around, but might not play every game. Gallagher, on the other hand, believes he should be starting regularly. He's confident in his abilities and thinks he can fit into his new style of play. This disagreement has led to Gallagher turning down 3 different contract offers from Chelsea. He even said no to a move to Aston Villa, which shows he really wants to make it work at Chelsea if he can. Now, here's where it gets even more complicated. Atletico Madrid, a big Spanish club, has come into the picture. They've agreed a deal with Chelsea to buy Gallagher, but of course, the player himself needs to agree to the move. Atletico is putting pressure on Gallagher to make a decision quickly. They've told him they want an answer by the end of the weekend because they need a plan for their own season. So, Gallagher is in a tough spot. He loves Chelsea and wants to stay, but he ain't happy with the contract they're offering. He could move to Atletico Madrid, which would be a big change, but might offer him more playing time and recognition. Or he could try to negotiate further with Chelsea and hope they'll improve their offer. On the one hand, you've got a player who's clearly passionate about the club and wants to stay. But on the other hand, the club and the player seem to have a very different view of his role and importance.
Mark McAdam is with me to round up the day's transfer news. What's your reading of the situation?
Unsavoury, messy, and not what you'd expect from a club of Chelsea's stature, and not particularly when it comes to a player of Conor Gallagher's position within the club. You look, he played over 50 games for Chelsea last season.
Mark McAdam, our resident transfer expert, describes the situation as unsavoury, messy, and not what you'd expect from a club of Chelsea's stature, especially when it comes to a player like Gallagher. It makes a fair point. Gallagher played over 50 games for Chelsea last season and was a real leader in the midfield. So the fact that it comes to this, with Atletico Madrid forcing the issue, is quite surprising. However, as Mark said, it ultimately comes down to Gallagher having the final say, and he has to be comfortable with whatever decision he makes. Will Gallagher agree to personal terms with Atletico Madrid, or will he decide to stay at Chelsea? It's a tense situation and one that's far from resolved. We'll definitely be keeping a close eye on this one. Alright, so let's shift gears now and discuss Chelsea's potential blockbuster signing of Victor Osimhen. This has been a huge story in the transfer window, and it's one that really captures the attention of football fans all over the world. Osimhen, of course, plays for Napoli, but he's been absolutely tearing it up in Serie A. Last season, he scored 26 goals in all competitions, and he's quickly establishing himself as one of the most exciting young strikers in world football. The problem is that Napoli is not going to let him go easily. They signed Osimhen to a new contract back in December, and they included a massive release clause of around 150 million euros. Now, that's a huge amount of money, and it's not exactly the kind of fee that many clubs can afford, even in the Premier League. However, Chelsea seems determined to find a way to make this deal happen. They're in the market for a new striker, and Osimhen is clearly top of their wish list. The interesting thing is that there might be a way for the two clubs to make a deal that works for everyone. You see, Romelu Lukaku is currently on the books at Chelsea, but he's not exactly settled in at Stamford Bridge. There's been talk of him potentially moving to Inter Milan, and that could open the door for a swap deal involving Osimhen. Napoli are in the market for a new striker, and Lukaku could be the perfect fit. Now, of course, there's still a long way to go before this deal is done. The two clubs are in dialogue, but there's a lot of moving parts here. Osimhen hasn't even been included in Napoli's squad for their pre-season game against Juve, which could be a sign that something is brewing behind the scenes. But as Mark McAdam said, Chelsea fans will be eagerly watching this one. Osimhen is the kind of player who could transform their team, and if they can pull off this signing, it could be a real statement of intent from the club. We'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. Alright, let's move on to some big transfer news, and this time it's all about West Ham United. Now, the Hammers have been making some serious waves in the market this summer, and they got a few deals in the works that are really worth keeping an eye on. First up, there's the move for Nicolas Varane. Now, this is a really interesting one because Varane is a 31-year-old striker who's been plying his trade at Borussia Dortmund. West Ham actually tried to sign him last summer, but he ended up staying in Germany. But now it looks like they're finally getting their man. We're told that Varane has been permitted to leave Dortmund's pre-season tour in Switzerland because the German club has described it as an opportunity for talks with another club. The total package for this deal is said to be around £27.5 million, which is a pretty hefty outlay for the Hammers. But they're clearly backing their manager, Julian Lowe, and they're bringing in a player who has proven himself at the highest level. Varane has the nickname Lucky, so the West Ham fans will be hoping he brings a bit of that with him to the London Stadium. But that's not all. West Ham are also closing in on another signing, this time in the form of Guido Rodriguez.
Guido Rodriguez, he's a player that was in the Argentina squad recently for both Copa America wins and the World Cup. He's a free after leaving Real Betis at the end of his contract.
Now, Rodriguez is a 30-year-old defensive midfielder who's been playing for Real Betis, and he's just had his medical with the Hammers today. He's a player who was recently part of the Argentina squad that won the Copa America and the World Cup, so he's got some serious pedigree. And he's joining West Ham on a free transfer, which makes this a really tricky bit of business. And then there's the one that everyone's been talking about, Somerville.
He's an explosive winger, can do a lot of damage. 29 goal involvements for Leeds last season.
Now, this is a player that really caught the eye in the Champions League last season, with 29 goal involvements for Leeds United. And Mark McAdams reckons he could be a brilliant signing for the Hammers. He's an explosive winger who loves to get the fans on the edge of their seats, and the West Ham supporters are going to absolutely love him. He's the kind of player who can really add some excitement and flair to their attack, and if he can translate that Championship form to the Premier League, then he could really be a game changer for them. So all in all, it's been a busy summer for West Ham, and they're really backing their manager to take the club to a new level. They're bringing in some experienced, proven talent, as well as some exciting young prospects. It's going to be fascinating to see how it all comes together once the season gets underway. Alright, well, that's about all we have for today. We've covered a lot of ground, from ongoing sagas with Conor Gallagher at Chelsea to the potential blockbuster signing of Victor Osimhen. And we've also taken a look at the exciting transfer business being done by West Ham United. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? But that's the way it is in the world of football transfers. Things can change in an instant, and you never know what's going to happen next. But hey, that's what makes it so much fun to follow, isn't it? The suspense, the drama, the never-ending rumour mill. It's all part of the experience, and we'll be here to keep you up to date on the latest developments. So make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see ya in the next one.